welcome to ASMR Who, and I just watched The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and I'm kind of in shock, to be honest with you. I suspect this might be a little bit all over the place. Okay, first of all, full spoilers, right? If you've not seen the episode, go and watch it, because, to be frank, I'm going to jump right to the end. The big cliffhanger, the big reveal of the episode. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Yeah, so spoilers ahead. They went for Sutek. They're doing Sutek. I cannot believe. I mean, I can, but I am stunned by the fact that they're doing Sutek. I think that the fan base has had this Susan Dryad character that we've been seeing throughout the stories, and we knew that it was a sort of a Susan Dryad sort of deal. Sorry, I have yawned then. I'm a bit tired. It's been a long day. And the fans, if you've been on social media at all, especially Twitter, which is what I've sort of seen the most of recently, you know that fans have had a lot of theories about who the big bad is going to be at the end of the series. But one of the earliest theories was Sutek. One of the earliest things was Susan Dryad Technologies. Susan Technologies, Sutek. And I thought that was a silly theory. And I was wrong. I in a way, I quite like the fact that the S-Triad anagram is quite obvious, and all the people at uni are like, yeah, we saw that like pretty instantly. That's why we've been monitoring her, because the name is an anagram of TARDIS. Like, yeah, duh, you know. So I thought that was good fun. As soon as they started presenting the idea that maybe she is Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, I was like, oh, right, well, obviously she isn't then. But I'm still, I can't believe they've genuinely done Sutek. I mean, we will have to see how the next episode pans out, with Empire of Death. I'm genuinely just kind of in shock that they did it. One thing I will say is that I felt that if this episode felt like the series had been building to a conclusion, that this episode was paying off, but the series hasn't really been building to it, and so it felt unearned to me. In terms of the story opens with the Doctor and Ruby crashing into UNHQ. They arrive there, and then the Doctor's saying, there's this woman I keep meeting, and she's always the same woman. And also, there's this mystery around Ruby's mum. And I just felt it kind of came out of nowhere, like, we know we've been seeing Susan Dryad over and over again. That first got sort of called out in 73 Yards. It got called out again in Dot and Bubble. Ruby sort of recognised her in Rogue, but it doesn't feel like there's been a kind of something's going on here, we need to sort this out kind of a mentality that's leading into this. And also the stuff with Ruby Road and Ruby's birth mother and all that, that's kind of come out of nowhere as well, especially because the previous 2 episodes that's not been touched on at all. It wasn't really touched on in 73 Yards. There was a comment about it never snowed again or whatever, but that's not really, a lot of that stuff was really pushed in the first few episodes of the series. But as it's gone on, that's kind of become less, and so now we're here and we've not had that stuff for a couple of weeks. It felt a little unearned for this episode to just go, let's figure out all the stuff that's been going on in this. Like, yes, these things have been mysteries for some of the series, but it doesn't feel coherent. In the same way that if you're going to compare it to the initial Russell T Davies Series 1, the original Series 1 from 2005, where, the thread through that series is much more kind of subtle. It's just a little mention in each episode. And obviously there's more episodes in that series, there's more stories, but by the time you get to the episode Bad Wolf and the Doctor, the kind of, in the previous episode, the repetition of Bad Wolf is called out in Boomtown, and so when you get to the next episode and they realise, oh, Bad Wolf, this is what this is, it feels a lot more kind of earned. Whereas in this, it's like, well, we're at the series finale, so let's solve the mysteries. But that kind of didn't feel earned. There was a brief scene with Mrs. Flood and Jerry Sunday where she kind of reveals, almost takes the mask off a little bit and kind of is a bit mean to Jerry Sunday, implies about a storm coming. So Mrs. Flood is maybe involved with Sutekh, but we don't really know. I'm not expecting answers about Mrs. Flood in the next episode. We know that Mrs. Flood is a slow burn. So I'm expecting that mystery to carry on to the next series. But that was kind of an odd scene. I just felt that the bringing the kind of let's solve all the mysteries of the series felt kind of arbitrary and in a sense unearned for the progression of the characters. I don't really know why the Doctor is gone. I keep seeing this woman. I need to figure this out because he didn't see her at all in the previous episode. He kind of made a note of her in Dot and Bubble, but he didn't see her in Rogue, and so that kind of felt a bit odd. And the stuff about Ruby Road and all that, the fact that he obviously went to Ruby Road in the Christmas special, chose not to go to Ruby's mum. In Space Baby said, I'm not going back there. We're making that choice. I'm not going back. I won't go back. And then all of a sudden in this episode he's like, oh, there's a mystery about Ruby's mum. It just felt like the kind of mysteries of the show kind of force themselves into the narrative of the story. And I felt that was a little underwhelming. I feel ultimately that, I mean, we'll see how the second part goes. This is a part one of a two-parter. I would put this on the kind of level of Army of Ghosts in terms of a part one. Maybe a Bad Wolf, but I think Army of Ghosts, in that we don't really have any of the answers to the questions. We kind of have an indication of the answers we're gonna get, but we don't really have any answers just yet. We know what the villain is. We know what the mystery about Susan Triad is. The woman who keeps appearing. We know what that mystery is. We have an indication that the mystery of Ruby's birth mother is going to get sorted. So, I would put it about sort of Army of Ghosts level. I don't think it's as strong as Sound of Drums. I don't think it's as strong as Stolen Earth. I probably don't think it's as strong as Bad Wolf. It's not necessarily a bad episode, but of course, it will depend on what part 2 does. I don't know, I'm genuinely still I kind of can't believe that they're actually doing Sutekh. I'm also in a way quite impressed because it feels like, and this episode must have been filmed like 6 months ago, if no longer ago, like a year ago, right? This episode was filmed ages ago. Must have been like a year ago. And it feels like it's one of those ways where Russell T Davies shows just how much his finger really is on the pulse, because it feels like every single theory that was thrown out by the fandom got addressed in this episode, and it was written and filmed way before any of those theories were ever made. I saw theories about Susan Triad being Susan, as in the Doctor's daughter Susan. That got addressed and played with. The idea of the S-Triad TARDIS acronym, that got addressed. When they were talking about the different gods, they talked about the Toymaker, they talked about Maestro. I definitely heard reference to the Trickster, the god of chaos, right? Which, when the Devil's Court came out, people were saying maybe it's the Trickster, because there was a musical cue that was very similar to one which was heard in the Sarah Jane Adventures to do with the Trickster. That got a mention in this. And of course, the Sutekh theory, which was correct, I think it's quite impressive for Russell to look at all the different possibilities of, okay, what are fans going to theorise about this mystery, and to kind of give, at the very least, a passing mention to all of those. In a way, I really respect his understanding of the fan base. I think putting this much stuff into the Sutekh angle, again, it kind of goes against the idea of this being a season 1. And, I watched this and I know who Sutekh is. I know what that means. Does a general audience know who Sutekh is? Know what Sutekh is? I don't think they do. And I think if this were, of course, Sutekh hasn't appeared in the revived series from 2005 onwards, but I think if this were a series 14, the idea that we're recalling something from the old show would be a little bit more accepted than if this being a season 1, I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my arse, but that kind of, again, I feel that the whole series, the season 1 identity of this series feels very confused, and this doesn't help that, but yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see where we go. I will say I'm not impressed by the visual effect of the big dog thing on the TARDIS. I know that Sudeikis got like a dog face, but I think I very much hope that the next episode recalls a kind of more of a classic look for Sudeik. Whether that be, within the body of Susan Dryad. I kind of hope we get more of that classic look. Because I thought that the visual effects of the dog creature was a bit naff, to be honest, and the sort of skull face of Susan Dryad and Harriet Harbinger. I just thought, like, if you're gonna do Sudeik, like, do it properly, you know what I mean? Just go for it. But yeah, this kind of really depends on where we go from this. So I suppose I will see you next week. I genuinely am. It's going to take me a while, I think, to get over the fact that we're doing Sutekh. It's kind of one of those characters where, for me, Sutekh has always felt like the kind of character who's like, yeah, but obviously you don't bring Sutekh back. It's a character where you leave it, you do the one story and that's it. And the next episode, Empire of Death, either could sort of solidify Sutekh as an all-time great Doctor Who villain, or it could really dampen the effectiveness of Pyramids of Mars. And I can see it going either way. My expectation is that it will dampen the reputation of the previous story. I have seen Pyramids of Mars. I've only seen it once. It's a good story, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm aware I've talked for quite a while on this story, so I won't keep you. I suspect I'll have a lot to talk about next week, so yes. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for your time, and I will see you next week for the final episode of the series. It's gone by so quickly. Empire